Hello and welcome to our learning today. In our session today, we are going to practice the Git commands that we've been learning. Remember, this is part of the web design basic series that we are covering, and this video is a continuation of what we have looked at so far. HTML and CSS, we've already covered it, and suppose this is your first time checking out our videos, remember to subscribe to help us grow our learning community. The first thing that you are going to do is to create a folder or a directory that will help us store every work that you are going to use during the practical session. I'll just create a folder on my desktop. I can rename that folder to Git commands. Once I have created that folder, I'll head straight to my text editor. In this case, we are using VS Code. Suppose you have not installed VS Code, you can check out the previous videos for you to be able to learn how to download and install VS Code and configure it on your PC. Once VS Code is up and running, on the top menu, click File, and on the list options, choose Open Folder. We are going to open the folder that is on our desktop known as Git commands. So locate it or where you saved that folder. I'll click on it, then select folder. Our folder has been opened. So far, there is nothing within our folder. We'll create sample files, then open the terminal and see how to manipulate some of those files using the Git commands. For you to be able to open the terminal, this is what you'll do. On the top menu, click View, then select Terminal. By default, VS Code opens the PowerShell terminal. We are interested in git bash command and we'll need to switch our terminal to git bash. You'll do that the right hand side of the window using the following icon. The drop down icon, click on it and select git bash. Git bash is now up and running. We are going to type our very first command in it. Let's type git status. Git status allows us to check the current state of the working directory, but in this case we are getting an error because we haven't initialized this repository, meaning Git cannot perform any operations on it. We'll run the git init command. After initializing that repository, we are going to do a little bit of configurations. The first configuration we are going to do is the username, then followed by the user email. I'll type git config global user dot name. I'll specify my name. For our understanding, what git config global.username means, any instance where I'll be using git bash, this is the username that will be used for that particular instance. Suppose I want a certain repository to adapt a certain username, I'll remove the global flag and only remain with git config user.name. I will write my name to match that which is on my GitHub account. By now, you should already have created a GitHub account, but suppose you have not created one, you can also check the previous videos for you to be able to create one. This is the username that I'm using. Hit enter. You can also configure your email. Good. This is our user email and also the username. For you to confirm that, you can run the git config command for you to be able to see your username. So I'll just run. You can now see my username. This is good for confirmation, for you to be very sure that that is the correct username. Also run that for the email, git config user.email. That's the email we are using. Right now, we are very sure that everything when it comes to the configuration of our username and email is correct. The next command that you are going to run is git status. Currently, we have nothing in our folder, so git status would tell us that everything is up to date and we do not have any commits yet. We are going to add our first file and move it to the staging environment. I'll go back to the editor and type Ctrl+N, then Ctrl+S, and create our very first HTML file. We have already covered HTML. Suppose you are new to HTML, you can check out the videos on HTML for you to learn more about it. On save as type, specify HTML. We will then create a file known as index.html. Our index.html file has been successfully created. We'll go back to the terminal and run git status. You can now see that git status is informing us we have untracked files in our directory. While using the git add command, you can add multiple files all at once or a single file each and every time. In this case, we only have a single file, so we'll add git add index.html. Add it, then we run git status. You can now see a different message that we have added our file, it's awaiting commit. For us to commit, we'll use the git commit command. Git commit allows you to write a message alongside that commit. We'll run the git commit, then specify the message. See how I'm typing the message? It is within the speech marks or the quotation marks or whatever you refer to them. I'll give it a message and say I've just added an index file. Index. After you've run the git commit command, it will assign a unique value to that specific commit and alongside the message that you specified. We can go back and run git status. And we can see that nothing is awaiting any commit. We are working on a clean tree. Once that is done, you can type Ctrl+N for us to create a new file. Ctrl+S for you to save that file. We can have a file known as contact.html. So as type HTML. Then give it a name, contact.html. And save it. Good. We now have our contact.html file. Let's go back to our terminal. Git status. Once you type git status, you can see a message that we have an untracked file known as contact.html. When a file is untracked, it means Git is not viewing that file, so the changes that are being made to that file are not visible to Git. But we want the changes that are being done to this file visible. We'll need to add that to the staging environment using git add command. Our file has now been added to the staging environment. We can confirm that by running git status. You can now see that this file is awaiting commit. It's been added. The only thing that is pending on this file is a commit message. We will achieve that by running git commit. With a message, say added contact page. Again, after running the git commit command, a hashed value or a unique value is assigned to that commit alongside the message that you specified. We will try type something within index.html file. Because this is a HTML web page, I'll give it a title. Can give it a body. Within the body, we can type some text. Let's assign it a heading. And maybe a text. The text can take the P format or the paragraph format, then write your name within the P tag. Good, we can save our text by typing Ctrl S as a shortcut for you to save. We head straight to the terminal and type git status. Enter. The message that we can see is index.html file has been modified. We now need to upload these changes that we've made into the staging environment. We'll do that by using the git add command and then git commit. We'll first add it. Then run git status. And we now need to commit those changes. Say and added that's our commit message. We can run git status. As you can see, all the changes have been committed. Suppose we add something else on this web page, say a phone number. Then save it. We head back to our terminal. The index.html file has been modified, but suppose you're not very sure of what has been modified. If you're working on quite a number of changes from different files, you can check that specific change by running a certain command known as git diff. What git diff does, it shows you the changes that were made, whether it was a deletion or an addition. But in this case, we have an addition, as you can see, a phone number in green. If you want to exit this particular window, just press Q on your keyboard for you to be able to go back to the terminal. I'll add this file into the staging environment, then commit it. There we go. I have just committed that particular file. There are some cases where you might need to add several files all at once. For example, let's add an email on both the index file and the contact.html file. That's the email I'll use. I'll save it. We then go to the contact.html file also write some HTML code and now add an email. We add the title, say contact page, you can add the body, and within the body add some content, maybe a heading, and now within that body we can also add the email that we've just added on the index.html file. We have made almost the same change to these two files, that is adding an email. I'll use the git add command to write a commit message and add index.html s contact.html. Enter. I can now write a single commit message for these two files. We have added those two files with the same commit message. We can run git status and we have nothing to commit. Good. We are now done with a few commands for this particular session. In the next learning session, we are going to link our local repository to the remote repository. And before you create the remote repository, by now you should have already created a GitHub account, which we have already covered in our previous videos, so you can check it out. See you in the next session where we'll do more commands when it comes to linking the local and the remote repository.